With over 30 years in the property industry, from facilities management to acquisitions, renovations, rentals, and construction, Julie Nobes has built a remarkable career. Today, she's the CEO of Julie Nobes Interior Design, a thriving business with over 100 staff and a £1 million turnover. Julie's qualifications are as diverse as her journey: a diploma in interior design, color therapy, counseling, and an MSc in creative writing for therapeutic purposes. Her passion for well-being and color has shaped her unique approach to interiors. On this episode of CEO Blueprint, Julie shares her inspiring story of career pivots across industries and how she built a business that blends creativity, care, and commercial success.
Julie, again, welcome to the CEO Blueprint, where we get to talk about strategies, your successes, your failures, and everything that has worked for you in business. And thank you again for taking the time to be on this session. It's a privilege to have you on this. And a quick introduction about yourself. I know you've been in business for over 40 years. And you've moved from construction into interior decor and all of that. But your story is better said than me introducing yourself. So, Julie, the floor is yours. Help the audience to know who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I started my life off as a nurse, and I ended up working in a cleaning company, which I bought from my mother, because my mother became a director of a company, and she then set her own business up, and then she moved to France, and I bought the business from her, because from an early age we always used to work in the business when she was short-staffed, cleaning shops, scrubbing floors, and it seemed like a natural thing to do because I'd had my first child, and it meant that I could work from home, and that made life a bit easier. So bought the business in 1983 and worked in that until 2017, at which time the business had changed quite considerably from offices to more construction orientated work, which was doing builders cleans. And I was the first female to set up a bespoke builders clean service within the industry for construction, and it was in the time of the big building boom in the 80s, so that was really good for me. It was a good move. I don't really ever think about strategies lots of the time. I just go with what I think is good for me and what I think will be worth work and what would be a good opportunity for me. Doing the builders cleans and working in the construction industry was better for my home life, home life. And so it was a good move, and it was a good move. But after 35 years, I decided I wanted to get out of it. Lots and lots of things were changing within the working world, in as much there was lots of policies, lots of legislation, there was lots of HR processes coming in, and there were too many for me government boxes that you had to tick to be accredited to, which I felt were all nonsense, because you can tick as many boxes as you like, but if you haven't got the workers on the ground and you haven't got the infrastructure in place, it absolutely makes no difference whatsoever. Nobody checks these apart from once a year, just to make sure you're still qualifying and you're still complying, but your business could be absolutely rubbish. And I just find it all a little bit nonsense. So I thought, I've had enough of this. I can't keep reinventing the wheel. I'm leaving. So I sold the business to people who were happy to comply with absolutely everything everybody chucked at you, and moved out of that sector into construction, which is a company that my husband had been running for over 35 years. He had moved into a position where he was working as estates manager, because we were running the contract via the facilities management company. We retained that one for him to have a full-time job. So he moved into estates management. We kept that contract going, and I ran the construction company. So, and that worked for a good while, and I restructured it so that we had money coming in, we had a better cash flow because it wasn't being managed very well. I mean, my husband has started it when he was, again, in his early 30s, and no, 20s actually, early 20s. And he, when you're back in the day, you did a job, you got paid at the end of it. It was very much a gentleman's handshake, whereas times had changed and we needed some contracts, we needed stage payments, we needed invoices done properly. And that's what I did, and created a better business structure. And then COVID came along and changed everything with regards to construction, made life really, really hard, made things really expensive, trade scarce on the ground. And for a domestic construction company, it became quite tough. I mean, it became very tough for the big boys as well, but from a domestic point of view, when you're just doing residential, it was really hard. And to maintain people's expectations. So last year, I made a decision that I didn't want to do that anymore, and I wanted to focus more on doing the interiors and design of people's properties. That way, then I haven't got to be employing directly plumbers, electricians. I can use subcontractors, which is what I do, and I enjoy it. So I've diversified throughout my life. I've kind of used my knowledge and my skill over the last 40 years has always been in property and interiors and redesigning and remodeling. And that's just my journey. That's where I am. And in between, I've had an interlude of doing children's educational material, which is another passion of mine, teaching children. I really enjoy teaching them. I love teaching them English. I have a master's in English, and yeah, that's my sideline, if you like.
I'm going to take you back to 1983 because there's something I want to pick there, and which I think is very important for our generation. But before I go back to 1983, is it fair enough to say that Julie is an entrepreneur and a philanthropist?
Yes.
Awesome stuff. So let's go back to 1983. Let's go back to 1983. You mentioned something. You said you bought a business from your mom. Our generation is that entitled generation that feels, no, you should pass it down to me. Why do I have to buy from you? Why did you buy business from your mom when you could have taken over the management and promised her, I'll take care of you and get it for free?
Because my mother we're not an affluent family. We don't come from an affluent background. My roots are, I lived in a caravan and on a caravan park in a place called Didcot. My mother was a single parent. She's always worked all of her life. She has taught us to work for whatever you have in life, you get through your own means. And there was never any expectation to have anything given to you because we didn't ever have anything given to us. My mother, when she had money, this was in our teens, late teens, was always very generous with it. But she always took rent from us. And there was never any... I didn't ever think that I was entitled to anything. You have to work for what you get. So when my mother moved over to France, she didn't have an awful lot of money. Things had gone wrong a little bit, and she needed the cash. And I didn't feel as though it was an insult that she was asking me to buy it because I was managing it for her while she was in France to keep the income coming in. It's just something I did. She was, and that's what she required. So I don't think that. So to buy it was a natural thing to do. It was an opportunity. So I could start this business by myself, and that would take me longer.
Yeah.
However, buying this business, which was not a huge amount of money, I think I bought it for £7,000 or £8,000. It had a 35,000 turnover at the time.
Say that again. I want to be sure I heard you right.
Bought it for £8,000.
That's quite a lot of money back then, 42
Well,
years ago.
yep, £8,000 I bought it for. The turnover was 35. Maybe my mother stung me. And I just was too trusting. Who knows? But it was still a good opportunity. It was a good investment. As I said, the turnover was 35,000. I had contracts and an income to come in.
Yeah.
Um, the business loan was taken out with Barclays Bank, and I paid it off bit by bit over the years. And eventually it became, over £1 million turnover with 100 staff. So
Mm.
I
Wow.
could set this up by myself, but
Wow.
it was better to have bought the business and have that business name already.
Yeah.
But why my mother had built it up? Why did I assume that that wouldn't be the case, that I would need to buy this from her? I didn't ever
Mm.
give that a second thought. And to be entitled, I think, is not good for anybody's soul, to be honest. I think you should never feel you're entitled to anything, because none of us are entitled to anything. I
Correct.
think we had good work ethic instilled in us.
Mm.
I believe I've done the same for my children. They
I
have
like that.
work ethic for the same reason that they've had to work in the business as teenagers, and that's done them a lot of good. I don't, my children, I'm generous with them, but if they've had a loan from me, they have to pay it back, every penny.
I love that.
Because because I believe that if you have a debt, you have to
Yeah.
pay it.
Yeah.
First and foremost, you have a responsibility to pay that money back. You are not
Mm.
entitled to have money that I've worked for just because you want to go traveling or you want to buy something special. If I
Yeah.
choose to help, I help. But if I'm asked to borrow some money, then that's fine. But they pay me back.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that. I love that. And while you were talking about, buying the business from your mom and your husband at the age of 35, something struck me there to say that was it important for you to have started business early in life? You've got over 4 decades of business experience, that I'm learning from at this point, and the people listening to you right now. Do you think starting early in life is a good thing? Because the sooner you start, I believe when you fail, you quickly learn from it. And I'm still going to come back to your failures, because I know you didn't have it all smooth all through those 40 years of running a business. Is starting a business early in life critical for your success?
I don't know. I can't. I'm not sure whether starting early is. I think for me, the reason I started a business early was because there was an opportunity. I was a
Mm.
nurse. I had a child, and I didn't want to be doing nights and evening shifts. I wanted to be at home with my son. I didn't want him to go to a childminder all day. So my choice was to stop nursing, and what would I do? I did lots of other jobs in between. I did a chef, I was cooking in a cafe at one
Wow.
time. I,
Wow.
I've done plenty of, I was a market researcher. I did lots of other things, and then I had
Wow.
this opportunity to buy the business. It was an opportunity that I took. Today, would I say with kids to start early? I think the likelihood now that there are less jobs available for young people, in particular kids who don't fit the mold. I don't fit a 9 to 5 office job. I just can't work in that kind of situation. My head does not allow me that kind of thing. So I'm better off working for myself, being in control, being in charge, and calling the shots. I work better with that. Um,
Awesome.
and that's my own destiny I'm in control of, for good or bad.
Yeah.
I think if you are at a loss as to what to do, then if you've got an idea, when I go into schools and I talk to them about entrepreneurship, I just think to them, well, what are your hobbies? What is it you like to do? Maybe start doing that as a weekend job or something like that to get yourself used to it. Because one thing will lead to another without a shadow of a doubt. You know, you might
Correct.
start walking
Correct.
dogs. You might end up becoming a dog groomer. You might then open a kennel. You know, all of these things
Yeah,
will just tag on to one another slowly but surely. So I believe that if you have something about you that you want to earn your own money, start with whatever you like and then progress from there. But I but also say that sometimes working in an industry that you enjoy, but you think you might like to do something by yourself is also a good idea because you get to learn about, you know, finance and marketing and
hmm,
sales and working with other people and communication. And when you're working by yourself, you don't know any of that stuff when you first start off. And that's a big learning
absolutely.
curve.
Absolutely. Now, there's a tricky question I want to ask you, and it's good that you actually mentioned talking about, your passion and all of that. There's a school of thought that believes that when you want to go into business, you build your business around your passion. And there's another school of thought that says, look, find a need and just meet that need. It doesn't really matter whether it fits with your passion and all of that. What school of thought do you belong to? One of this or both combined? Passion, meeting a need, or just
Well,
find a need there and just meet it?
so for me, I think in the beginning for the cleaning business, it was something I knew because I'd
Mm,
been in it since I was a teenager with my mum. And it fulfilled a need to have a job that fitted around my family.
yeah.
As I got older, I realized I have major OCD issues. And, and cleaning and tidying and organizing is a passion of mine. So the job actually ended up fitting with the person that I am. I have a need to get things straight and organized and um, to a finished position. So for me, the cleaning really worked well. So that fed into my passion, I suppose, if you like.
Mm,
I don't. I think there's always a little bit of passion, maybe that starts with people's journey with some people. But sometimes I think it's just opportunity and it's just if you can see the worth in it, you just go for it. And then things will just evolve. I think I'm a very much a things will evolve kind of person. I'll do it because it's a need
yeah.
I have at the
Yeah.
moment, and then things evolve. And eventually, I mean, for example, I was in the cleaning business for 35 years. I had a passion for teaching children. So I created the books and the playmats and the posters for schools, and I sold them internationally, but it
Mm,
didn't fit with the business I was running. So it didn't ever take off anywhere. And that's one thing I would say, that things need to be able to be bolted onto what you do rather than something completely diverse. So that passion of mine
correct.
just died away. But in between working in the cleaning business, I was kind of building up my own education because I left school with just two CSEs. I messed about in school so much and was the class clown and couldn't sit still and was a little bit of a tearaway. So I didn't leave with an awful lot. However, I know that when I got to school and when I first started in school, I had all straight A's. So I wasn't a stupid person, but I hadn't really spent my time wisely. So since when I left school, I did an awful lot of education externally that I paid for myself and took myself through the higher education system. And I did a lot of English. So I did literature, English degree, MA, Master's of Science in Therapeutic Writing, play therapy, MSc. So I've done lots of other stuff. They were my passions. And I think now, at this stage of my life, I'm probably got to the point where I want to do things that I'm passionate about. But I have built on
Mm,
throughout my career, having the opportunity to do it.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Uh, uh, uh,
I think I'm more of a need person. If it's a need, I'll do it.
Amazing. And while you were talking, you mentioned things evolve. And I'm also an advocate of, look, strategies evolve. The fact that you started this business doing this doesn't mean 20, 30, 40 years down the line, you're still doing the same thing. From your story, you started in construction, right? And you pivot into interior decor, which is what you do today. And I've seen people who would go into business because this was what they started with. They want to keep doing the same thing, even though the business is going down, right? And I say that, look, only a captain of a ship goes down with the ship. When do you learn to press the stop button, and it's time for you to pivot into something else rather than what you started with? Do you at the point in business figure out it's time to move into something else? At what point did you get
I
to that
think,
level?
I think, like everything in life, things run their course. And you get to a point where, as I said previously, you can't keep reinventing the wheel. In business, it goes up and down constantly. You
Correct.
go through recessions, you go through change of government, you go through new legislation, lots of things come in and out. And eventually you hit a bit of a peak and you just think, I can't do this anymore. It feels like the next generation needs to come in who is used to all of this rubbish that we're having to deal with. And they know how it works. They're happy to take it on in that format and make the business grow and put more into it. I got to the point where I couldn't do that anymore. My interest in it had waned. I think I had got out of the company what I wanted to get out of the company, and I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, it's time to move on.
It's time to move on, because sometimes I think people who are entrepreneurs like new things, like new creations and new ideas.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where things become stale. So you then have to do something different. And I think for me, that's what happened. I got to a point where I just thought, oh, I am so bored with doing this and filling in paperwork and dealing with the rubbish that comes my way, that I just want to do something different and take on another project, make that work really well and see where that takes me. So I had an opportunity to sell the business, which I did, for good or bad, but that's another story. And I stepped away from it, and it's probably the best thing that I did.
Amazing. And just to finish up on this particular topic, in over 40 years of you running a business, you must have faced challenges, either financial challenges, operational, economic, whatever it is. How can you talk about one key challenges you had, and how you solved it as a lesson for someone listening to you right now?
How did I solve it? So, okay, so over the 40 years, we've had, as I said, a couple of changes of government. We've had a couple of big recessions. We've had Brexit. And the key challenges within any of the business, I think, is finance and staff. Because you have to fulfill your obligations with staff, and you have to finance your business with the money that comes in from it. So, and the other thing for me was that I wanted an exit strategy, and the business that I had only had construction contracts, which were one-offs. So so I could sell a goodwill, but that wouldn't be enough money to have a reasonable sale on the company. Correct. So I had to go into contracts. So when the money wasn't coming in and the cash flow was a bit low, when the recession hit and they weren't doing as much construction, I made a decision to go back to contractual work, which is in offices, office blocks. So it's regular, either evening cleaning or morning cleaning of office blocks or janitorial cleaning. So, and that would then give me a stream of income that was guaranteed on a monthly basis. So when the second recession hit, which was kind of 90s-ish, I think, that might be wrong, I don't know, but around about the 90s. I started picking up contracts. Now, to do that, you had to then have all of these quality ticks, So we had to get all of those done. We had the investors in people, which we achieved, and loads of our ISO stuffs and so that we could apply for public sector contracts as
Yeah.
well as office cleaning contracts. That was my strategy. That's how I managed it. We then procured a number of contracts, which gave me an income on a regular basis, which helped then fund the seasonal work that was the builders' cleans, because that was usually from March to from January to March, where people were trying to get rid of their budgets before the new budget comes in, because you've got to spend your money, otherwise you don't get it back. That's another crazy system. And then from July to September, which was the shutdown of the schools, and that was a big, like, make hay while the sun shines, and everybody's working 10 hours a day. So that kind of funded one funded the other. So that was the way I managed the second recession. Was right, I need to rethink how I'm going to do this, because I can't rely on just the construction stuff. I need to have a regular income coming in the background whilst this is not as busy as it was.
Amazing. There's one question again that while you were talking, I came to my mind, and that's the fact that you didn't feel entitled, and then you bought a business from your mom for £8,000.
Mm-hmm.
Either you saved for it, you took a loan, and all of that. And then over the years, you turned this into a £1 million revenue business, over 100 staff. Amazing success that you've had there. What advice would you give to someone who wants to go into a cleaning business like the one you started? And how would you tell them to go about it in terms of setting it up, scaling the business, where to go to? Because I know that business is quite lucrative. You stepped away from it, but someone else is trying to go into it. Do they start afresh? Do they take your model of buying an existing business and then building on top of it? What advice would you give?
What advice would I give? I would say, if you've got the opportunity to buy a small business, then that's a possibility. But these days, I don't know how possible that is. And everything is so expensive, so I don't know what the cost of those things are. So unless you've got equity or property or a mortgage or something like that, you're probably not going to be able to raise the finance. If you're going to start it by yourself. So when I started, I just had my own car. I went out and did my own cleaning. So I did it myself. I didn't employ lots of people, because you can't, because you have to, if you've only got one or two jobs, the income that you're generating has got to pay you, and it's also got to go back into the business to buy equipment. So you have to build it up.
Correct.
So I was on the tools myself a lot in the very beginning, and then I started employing one or two people, and then just built it up slowly. The trouble with lots of people these days, they want to run before they can walk. They think if they have a business, they should have a lovely car, they should have fantastic clothing, they should have everything that everybody has with their business to make themselves look successful. Well, that's nonsense. You don't need it. You just need to be successful. And what you wear and what you drive does not translate into success, because you could lose it all very, very quickly. So it doesn't matter if you just buy yourself one van and that is your family vehicle as well as your work vehicle. It gets you from A to B, but it's only one outlay. You do your own work and you get your own money in. And then once you get to a position where you've got a couple of contracts and you think, well, I do need to employ people now, and you can't physically do any more hours, then you start taking people on.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that advice. Thank you, Julie. And one last question before I allow you go, before you start billing me, because your time is very expensive. And if you weren't doing interior design, what else might you be doing?
If I wasn't doing interior design, what would I be doing? I don't know. I dream about lots of things, because that's how my head is. I dream that I would like to work internationally, teaching children. I think I'd like to do that. I'd like to be a better artist, photographer. I'd like to do all that kind of thing.
Lovely. Lovely.
they're my passions. I absolutely love color. I like, one of the passions I have with regards to interior design is being able to help people who don't have tons of cash have a nice home. For me, what I do is not about working with people who've got lots of money in big properties who want flashy, fabulous homes. I mean, I'm happy to do that if people want to pay me. And I also like that as well. But I'd like to be able to work with people to help them choose the right colours in their properties, make their house look more like a home. People who haven't got a lot of cash, who live in social housing, who might be vulnerable. If there's people out there who would like a little bit of help, who are a little bit lost, I'd like to be able to do something like that and do some good with it, not just to make loads of money with it. You know, that's not
Good
that's not
stuff.
really what I'm in it for. If I'm on, I mean, I need to earn a living. I'm not kidding anybody here. I still have a mortgage to pay. I still need to run a car. I still want to go on holiday. I still want to do all of those things. But if within that time I could do something good with it, then I'd like to do so.
Amazing. And to bring this to a close, Julie Nobes, you are a mentor. You help people who are just trying to go into business. You're a philanthropist. You're an entrepreneur. Any last words? And before you say those last words, please also include anyone who wants to find Julie Nobes. Where can we find you?
Where can you find me?
Yeah.
Well, you can find me on the internet. I have a website, Julie Nobes Interiors. I have an Instagram account, although I'm not very good at keeping that up to date because I'm rubbish at that sort of stuff and I don't have the time and it's a job in itself. But I am on the internet. If you just Google Julie Nobes, there'll be a few things that will come up with my name on. Um, I to round off, one of the things that I always say to my children, because everybody seems to be a little bit stressed about having a job with not necessarily a title, but with something definite to do. I just want to do this. I just want to be good at that, because that makes them feel better. They feel like they don't have any direction. Not just my children. I think lots of young people don't feel like they've got any direction. It's like, where am I going and what am I doing? I think
Correct.
I would say to this, and this is what I say to my children, is that whatever you're doing today is not what you're going to be doing in 30 years' time. So don't worry about what you're doing today. Just enjoy it, do it the best you can. And then in 5 years' time, or maybe 12 months' time, you'll be doing something completely different because life will take you in different directions. And when an opportunity opens up its door to you, if it feels right, you need to take it. But don't ever think that your life is linear because it isn't. And it will go in many different directions. So you can start somewhere as a coffee shop assistant and end up being a mogul of a whole coffee shop chain. Or you might do something completely off the wall and be a coffee roaster. Who knows? You don't know. So you can't, I don't feel frustrated about not knowing what you want to do or where you're going because nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Correct.
I still don't know. You know, I'm doing this now, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing next year or the year after. I might be doing something completely different, and I hope I am. I mean, bring on the journey, I say. Let's just see where I'm going.
The uncertainty is the fun in it.
Absolutely. The uncertainty is the fun. Some of it is a bit nerve-wracking, but you know, if you can hold your nerve, I think the uncertainty will also keep your brain going and keep you focused,
Absolutely.
you churning. So you've
Absolutely.
got to have a little bit of that. Not everything in life has to be a dead cert because life becomes really dull if it is.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Julie. It's been wonderful hosting you today. And you can't compress 42 years, over 42 years of business into 30 minutes. You know, there is absolutely a lot to learn from. And I'm glad that a lot of people will be able to connect with you after today. And I hope, hopefully can bring you back because I think there is still a lot that I want to milk out of your over 42 years of running a business. Thank you so much, Julie. And it's been a pleasure.
Okay. And hopefully I'll speak to you soon.